one day somebody does something unspeakable to someone else, to someone you hardly knew, and you do something about it, because you can.
Guys, an NYPD officer and two bystanders were wounded when police opened fire on a man armed with a knife at an L-train subway station in Brooklyn, New York, according to authorities. Police said the gunfire was reported just after 3 p.m. at the Sutter Avenue station in Brownsville. 4 people, that's one police officer, 2 civilians, and the suspect, were hospitalized, according to the fire department of New York. Interim Police Commissioner Tom Donlan said the wounded officer, who was shot in the chest area below his left armpit, is at Brookdale Hospital and is in good spirits and is expected to make a full recovery. What about the bystander? Donlan, along with Mayor Eric Adams, MTA CEO Jano Lieber, and other top brass of the NYPD, addressed reporters at a news conference Sunday evening. He said, "Make no mistake, the events that occurred on the Sutter Avenue station platform were the results of an armed perpetrator who was confronted by officers doing the job we asked them to do," says Donlan. Now he's going to turn it. It's that guy's fault. I digress. There will be a full and thorough investigation conducted into this incident, as we always do in cases like this, says Donlan. But right now, we are grateful that our officer will be okay. And again, what about the bystander? The suspect, who officials said had more than 20 prior arrests and a significant history of mental illness, was shot multiple times. A 49-year-old man was also struck in the head and listed in critical condition at Kings County Hospital. And a 26-year-old woman was grazed and was being treated at Brookdale Hospital, police said. Quote, "It started because somebody wanted to come to the transit system with a weapon. Somebody who, as the mayor said, had a history of crime and a history of violence and even gun charges," says Lieber of the MTA. Drivers were being advised to avoid the area, and L trains were temporarily suspended between Broadway Junction and Canarsie Rockaway Parkway. NYPD Chief of Department Jeffrey Madre said he reviewed body-worn cameras and then walked reporters through the timeline of events. He said 2 officers assigned to the 73rd Precinct saw a man walk into the station and go through the gate without paying his fare. The officers then followed the suspect up 3 flights to the platform and asked him to stop, but he refused. Quote, "At a certain point on the platform, the male mutters the words, 'I'm going to kill you if you don't stop following me,'" says Madre. He goes on, the officers are able to catch up to him. The male turns around, he confronts the officers. The officers are asking him to take his hands out of his pockets. They become aware that he has a knife in his pocket. I don't know how they became aware of that, but I guess he did. They give numerous commands. The male basically challenges the officers. "No, you're going to have to shoot me." Well, they did. Now, Madre says as that was happening, a northbound train pulled into the station and one of its doors opened, and the suspect jumped onto the train. They gave him numerous commands to put his hands down and come with them. Madre said, and he goes on, one officer deploys his taser. The taser is ineffective. The second officer deploys his taser. The taser is ineffective. The male jumps back off of the train and onto the platform. At one point, he is advancing on one of the officers with his knife. The officer stands back. He draws his weapon, and both officers at this point fire. They fired multiple rounds, says Madre. And he says, and the suspect went down and was quickly handcuffed and subdued. While they are subduing him, one of the officers realizes he's hit as well. The officer who was hit didn't stop. He continued to do his duty. He helped his partner put the man in handcuffs. They searched him, and when they saw where the man was wounded, they started performing life-saving measures by applying pressure to his wound, while this officer is also bleeding from his chest area. Now, what about the bystanders who were shot? Madre said while the officers were taking down the suspect, they realized that other people were hit by gunfire as well. My AC just kicked on, so you're going to hear my AC. He said additional officers arrived on the scene and quickly gave aid to the wounded officer, the suspect, and the two civilians. The suspect decided he wasn't going to go nicely with the officers, and the officers were put in a very difficult situation to save themselves, says Madre. Now, this Chief Madre, who said the shooting will be investigated further by the Detective Squad and Force Investigation Division, was asked if the officer and civilians were wounded by friendly fire. He says, I don't like to use that term, friendly fire, but absolutely we believe at this time that our officers, were the only ones who discharged weapons at this time. I don't know if that'll change. So everyone that was struck this afternoon, we believe was by our officers. I'm sure the guy didn't shoot him with a knife. I got a knife. Pow, pow. Prosecutors. I'm sorry, guys. I got 7%. He's saying, I believe our officers' gunfire was, yeah. I don't think the guy shot anything with a knife. Had to be the officers. Protesters clashed with police Tuesday night in response to this event at the Brooklyn train station. The NYPD says 18 people were taken into custody during the protest. 17 of those people were summoned for disorderly conduct, and another person received a desk appearance ticket for possession of a controlled substance. Daryl Mickles, the man who was shot by police, that's the bystander, remains in critical condition. In addition to police body cameras, the MTA said cameras on the platform and the mezzanine will assist in the investigation. So this is a tough one, though, because you do have a guy with a knife. He's kind of mentally ill. He's out there. He has a history of violence. Okay. And so, it is a tough one. But here's these bystanders. They're just getting off the train or getting on the train, or they're just going to work or wherever they're going is Sunday, maybe to church. And now one of them's in critical condition fighting for his life because of police gunfire. And I hate to blame the cops in this one because the guy had a knife. But if a surgeon is doing surgery and accidentally cuts an artery and the guy dies, he could be sued for malpractice. A cop shoots an innocent bystander who's now in critical condition. Do you think he's going to be, charged? Or do you think he's going to get sued for malpractice?